I was in the 52nd RTT. Graduated in December of 1968. Broke in Middleborough. D Troop stayed in Middleborough for a couple of years. And then they sent me to the Turnpike, Beacon Park, because I lived in Dorchester. I didn't want to go there, but you didn't have a choice in those days, and you weren't told in advance. And from I spent about 9 months on the Turnpike, and I actually got to like it. But I had already requested a transfer out, so I got transferred back to Foxborough. And from Foxborough, they sent me to Concord. And then we got out of the barracks. We were in a cruiser per man thing, but they didn't have enough cruisers for you to take home on your days off. So getting back and forth and everybody had one car. So you couldn't just take your car and not leave it at home. So getting back and forth to the barracks was very difficult. And in Foxborough, luckily there was another trooper that lived in Dorchester like I did, and we were on opposite lines, so we were able to transport each other. And then in Concord it was even worse, but the corporal, what was his name, George, I forget. He lived in West Roxbury, and he would I would drive over to West Roxbury. My wife would take me there, and then he would take me to Dorchester on the last evening shift. So he was a really good guy. But it was just a pain in the neck, so I asked to be sent to the airport, and then Captain Herzog was at the airport, and Captain Gilligan was the A Troop commander, and A Troop was in Concord at the time. So I went up and spoke to him, and he picked up the phone, and Herzog always had people he wanted to get rid of, so bang, sure, you can come, kid. And somebody gets kicked out, whatever. And I stayed in the airport for 4 years. And from there, I went to Topsfield. It lasted I didn't like it up there. There was nothing to do. So I lasted about a month and got myself transferred to Linfield, which was a great station. But again, I was living in Weymouth by that time, and the commute was really, really bad because I had to go down the expressway every day at rush hour. And he was doing more work going on the expressway than you were. So I ended up transferring to Norwell, which was my home station, and a busy station too, which I always like busy stations. And I got involved with the union. I got involved with the Trooper newspaper at the time, and I became the editor of the Trooper newspaper. And then I was about to be promoted to corporal, so I asked for a transfer to research and development, and they sent me there. And I worked there, and then I became the vice president of the union. So for 3 years, and they kept me in research and development. I worked with Tom Kennedy, who great boss, still very close friends with him. Tom, of course, became deputy superintendent, so they when I was no longer the vice president, I ran for president, and I lost to Buddy Riley, and who I've always said made a better president than I would have. He was a really good president, a sharp guy, very smart. So needless to say, they sent me to GHQ 1010 Commonwealth Ave. Canty was the colonel. Lieutenant Colonel was the colonel, and he sent me. Did a lot of dealings with him when I was with the vice president of the association, and there was an opening at Middlesex TA's office. I was a sergeant by then, and Canty he sent me over there to interview and everything. At that time, they were trying to eliminate all the civil service detective lieutenants, And they either transfer them. Billy McCabe was a commissioner, and he promised them all that he would take care of them until they retired. So a lot of them became detective captains, and one became a major. He transferred him into GHQ. There was one left at Middlesex, John Burns, and he was a short timer. So I remember going in my first day. He was sitting in the sergeant's desk up front, and they wouldn't let him sit in the office, the commanding office. So I said to him, "Sarge, where do you want me to sit?" I'm a lieutenant, Rob. "Where do you want me to sit?" He says, "Anywhere but behind me." So, and he only lasted about a week before I could go into the office. But and Bobby Long was the commanding officer over there, Detective Lieutenant Bob Long. So I stayed there for, I think, 6 years. I probably supervised about 130 homicides, besides other cases, some really good cases beyond homicides. And then a new DA came in, and he wanted his own person. So I ended up back at GHQ. I was filling in for a detective captain who had a heart attack and was out sick. And there was trouble with the Racing Commission unit. And Canty called me back in the office again and said, "You're going to the Racing Commission, kid." So I went to the Racing Commission as a detective lieutenant and stayed there for 9 years until I retired. Growing up in Dorchester, you saw the Mets and the Boston Police. You never, on the registry, you never saw the state police. And I thought about that. I can't remember even seeing a cruiser. The first memory I have is going to the airport one day and seeing the troopers at the airport. But I was an adult then, probably maybe 20 years old or something. And that's the first memory I have of seeing a trooper. Like I said, I worked for Gillette, and then I got a job at Boston Edison at the time, in the power plant down in Weymouth. But they weren't career moves, you know. I didn't see them as career moves, and I didn't have a college education, and I wanted a career, something I could do for years and years. And of course, knowing the state police had a 20-year retirement, and just the image. And I know about the image. To me, they were number one. And the funny thing is, I worked in a delicatessen for a number of years, which was right next to the Boston District 11, the old District 11, the original District 11. So I got to know a lot of the Boston police officers because they come in there all the time. And so that interests me in police work. But I used to see the cruisers always stuck in traffic. I used to say to myself, I hate traffic. So, and I said, I'm going to try it for the state. And that was the first exam to come up. The funny thing was, I didn't take the first chance I had to take it. I was 21 years old. I said, oh, they'd never take anybody 21 years old. That's how much I knew about the state. So I waited for the next exam to come up, and I took that and got into the 58th RTT in uniform, I think, for 13 years. And that whole 13 years, I only investigated 2 fatals. Nothing ever happened when I was working, you know. I think I had 1 chase the whole time. Nothing ever happened. And I had 1 in Knoll, 1 in Linfield, and that was it. I'm trying to think in Linfield, we're trying to remember, there was a lot of things going on in Linfield, especially on Route 1. You know, a lot of fights and barroom things and all that stuff. So, but in Middlesex, it was different, and there were a few cases. I suppose the top case we did was the Depositors Trust Bank robbery. And That was the federal jurisdiction ended, statute of limitations, and we had 1 year to solve it. And we trained one witness who we put into protective custody, Joe Bangs, former MDC police officer. And I took care of him for a long time. It seems like forever. He was a character, but he was a great witness. And we worked the case. We first did the case where Joe Bangs was shot by Tommy Doherty, who had dropped out of the State Police Academy and had become a Medford police officer, was a lieutenant. Got into cocaine big time, as was Joe Bangs. And they knew Joe had cocaine hidden in his trunk of his car, so they decided to kill him. And luckily for Joe Bangs, he turned sideways just as they shot. And the bullet, they had a shotgun that was across this thing. So, and then one guy chased him with a pistol, but the guy was a terrible shot and he missed him. Joe ran home and said to his partner, "Call the state police." That's all. He didn't want them. So that was before I got there, and the Middlesex unit responded, and basically Joe became our witness. Although he offered them out. Joe was a tough little guy, and he told Doherty, he said, "You meet me behind Carol's restaurant, and you and I will fight it out." And Doherty wouldn't meet him. And then he called Clementi, who was a captain in the MDC police, and he told him, "My trial's coming up for Doherty shooting me." He said, "I want you to testify on my behalf." And Clementi said no. And he turned around, he was in a payphone at that time, and turned around. It was Billy Lozano and Greg Foley had gone down to Florida to bring him back. And he just said, "Let the chips fall where they may." And he became our star witness. And we had found, not we, but the unit had found, after he had shot, opened the trunk of his car, and they found the cocaine and also jewelry. So they seized all that. And they found money, Canadian money it was, which they had to give back to him. So Doherty got convicted for the shooting, and I think he died in jail. I don't know. He had all kinds of, he had, down in Tennessee, they arrested him for transporting cocaine and firearms and things like that. So he had a lot of trouble. And then we tried to deposit his trust. And deposit his trust. Clementi got found guilty. They all got found guilty. Whitey Bowser wanted the money. So Whitey Bowser grabbed him, brought him to the house in South Boston where they killed everyone. Told him we're going to kill him if he didn't give him the money. He said, okay, called his wife. It was hidden in the washing machine. They went down, they got the money, and they killed him anyways. But the rest of them all got convicted. And they all kind of were kind of rats, turned on each other except for one guy. And he was the safe man. The safe man was the guy that got killed. He was an expert. When they went into the bank, he cut the wires. He disarmed the safe and everything else. And he was his nephew, and everybody had a partner. So it was Clementi and Doherty. It was Joe and his buddy brother O'Leary. And then it was the safe guy and his nephew. Judge Barton handled the case, tough guy. And this guy stood up to him in court. The rest of them were like mealy mouse, And this guy stood up to him in court. And he said, "I'm not telling you anything. I'm not cooperating. I'm not doing anything." And we said, "Oh, he's done for." He got the least sentence because Judge Biden said, "You're the only honorable one in the group." But the rest of them all went away. I think Clementi died in jail too. So that was a big case. And, there were homicides. Probably the worst homicide was the Townsend homicide, where the mother and the two kids were killed by Danny LaPlante. That was horrific. It stayed with me for a while, going in the house and seeing the two little kids drowned in each tub. The mother shot in the back of the head, sodomized, and that was well put together. That was, and Danny LaPlante is still, well, he's got life without parole, but he was a teenager, so they had to re-sentence him. So, I didn't go to the hearing, but some of the guys that did said that he told them what he did, and it was worse than what we even thought. So the judge gave him 25 years on each case, on and after. So he had 75 years to serve. So he'll never come back. And but that was a horrible case, heart-wrenching, because they were just nice people. She was a Bible study teacher and a daycare teacher, and she had a little boy, and she had put him in for a nap. The little girl was in school. The bus dropped her off, and she had a long walk to get to the house. It was way back, and it was isolated, and they never locked their doors. And so her husband called her. He had just signed an agreement to buy a Holiday Inn, and he wanted to go out and celebrate, and she wasn't answering. And so he went home, and all the lights were on, and her car was there, so he knew something was wrong. And he'd go in, and he found her. He didn't find the kids, and then he called the police. So he had drowned the little boy in the upstairs bathroom. We don't know if he shot the mother. I'm sure she was trying to get him out of there before the kids, but and the daughter came home, the little girl came home. We were able to trace that she got up about 2 or 3 stairs to the second floor. She dropped her books on the floor like kids do. And he grabbed her there and then brought her to the downstairs bathroom and drowned her there. And then at some point he shot and killed, and then we found out that he had broken into the house before. We also found out that she used to like to sit out and sunbathe, and he used to spy on. He lived right behind her in the woods, and he used to spy on him. But it's an interesting case because, as you know, people when they break in, they sometimes defecate. Well, he defecated on the way over on a tree stump, and he left his underwear there, and it was all covered in crap. He left a beer. So we were able to match up the underwear and the tree stump crap through DNA, and then we got footprints, and we actually ended up finding out the gun was stolen. So from a house up the street from him, he fled, broke into a house, stole a gun, and hijacked the car. And the woman in the car jumped out at some point and gave the description of the car, and a registry inspector saw it. And then they had a long foot pursuit, and then we found him hiding in a dumpster. And brought him to the barracks in Concord, and he was a juvenile, or he had been a juvenile, and he had been arrested before. And when juvenile, they just let him go and sit. So he thought he was just going to be able to go and sit, and he had a gun in his pants, and he was going to shoot his way out. But a bullet dropped, so we were going to search him anyway. And we found the gun, and he never saw the light of day. The court psychiatrist believed that he was having sex with his mother, and that he was one of these people that had no sense of guilt, none whatsoever. And the family called, a few days later, something said they had an old car in the back, and they said they found the gun in the car. Later on, we believe that they put the gun in the car. The gun was in the house. We found casings in the basement from the gun. The gun was reported stolen from a house up the street, along with the ammunition. The ammunition, the FBI locked in the ammunition, the bullets that he used. Somehow they did this through some nuclear testing, locked it in that the bullets that he used were the same, came from the same case of box of bullets. Since that's been kind of questioned whether that's legitimate or not, but that's what they testified to. You know, we got the footprints going right back to the house. He threw a pillow out the window after he shot her. He shot her with a pillow, and he threw it out the window. And the K9 unit came down. I called for a K9 unit right away, and it came down, and they tracked the pillow. They tracked the scent right to the house. We had the defecation on the tree stump, his underwear, and that would. I think that was pre-DNA, and we had him. The father, he didn't live long. Well, he did live long, but he died young. The father had testified. I had to bring him to court to testify, and it was heartbreaking, you know.
Graduating from the academy, I was a non-vet. Luckily, somebody told me you better be in shape when you get there, and I was in shape. I don't know if I would have made it if I wasn't. When I worked at Edison, the power plant was 7 stories high, and because it was, you know, all the steam generators and the burners, and the place was constant heat. So all of the after the second floor, I believe, were all graded floors, so the heat could rise. And I used to train. I used to in work boots and work outfit. I used to go up and down the stairs, run up and down the 7 flights of stairs. I don't know how many times I would do it, and then I would run. So I was in shape, thank God, because if I wasn't, I had no idea what it was going to be like. I didn't know. I knew one guy that I knew was in the class ahead of me, and I called him and asked him, and he just said, "Well, you better know the Blue Book or something." That was all they told. So when we're marching, first day or second day, whatever it is, Hunt starts yelling at me and says, "You're not keeping my cadence." And I'm saying to myself, I don't even know what the word cadence means. What's he talking about? So somebody whispered to me, "They got to march." So I learned cadence quick and hurry, but that got me into the Welsh squad. So every day after lunch for half an hour, we had one classmate named Billy Welsh, who also couldn't march. And basically it was all the non-veterans. And we had a march for half an hour, and Welch was a real quiet, low-key guy, and they made him the drill instructor for us. So we were the Welsh squad, and there was also the Frug squad. I didn't have to go in that, thank God. That was for the fat guys. And then on Wednesday, it was pretty brutal, of course. You know, and like I said, a lot of guys had been in the military. They were used to it. On Wednesday, we had to give blood, and then the doctor said, "You got to give them the rest of the day off." And that kind of like calmed everything down, and I was good after that. And after 2 weeks, I'd say it was, you know. And you think to yourself, what else am I going to do? This is my career. This is what I'm going to do. So, but after 2 weeks, then it became fun. Not so much fun, but it wasn't. We could laugh at what they were doing, you know, especially at night in the barracks. We were in a squad bay, so there was 60 of us in the squad bay. And I remember the last night before we graduated, we all we did was we stayed up half the night just telling stories about what went on for the 13 weeks we were in. We had to get out before Christmas, so then we graduated December 16th, I think. And so it just it was a lot of laughs. Afterwards, there was a lot of laughs. My grandson just went through boot camp, and I said to him, "Don't worry about it, because you'll laugh about it afterwards." And he did, and his mother was "Oh, what are they doing to my poor son?" And I said, "Relax, it'll be okay." And I get through it. I was academically, I was first in the class. I had a 98 average. I was third overall. I couldn't shoot. I could shoot to qualify, but I wasn't. I was right on top in physical fitness, and there was one guy, Greg Stuntley, who was Uno, who should have been Uno. He could do everything. So, and the other guy was a former police officer who used to cheat off of me. So anyway, he was number 2, and I was number 3. So if I could shoot, I would have been number 2, I think.
But I admire. I've been to the last 3 graduations, and talk about feeling proud. And the other time I felt proud is when I retired, because I went 32 years and a great organization and a great police department. And when you see them march out at they don't know what they're in store for, but they look so sharp. They really do. And the drill teams, they look in the pipes, and they just look so sharp. You get proud that you're part of this organization, because that's 99% straight, hardworking, good people. I was at the airport, stationed at the airport. Got a call that there was a young woman on a plane who was very sick, and so and in those days we didn't call ambulances; we had ambulance cruises. So I was on the ramp side. One of the patrols was ramps, so I pulled up to the jetway, went up the stairs, went into the thing. She said, "I'm very weak. I don't know what happened to me," and everything else. So, and she wasn't a big woman or anything else. So I said, "Well, come on, I'll take you to the hospital." She said, "I don't know if I can walk." So I lifted her and carried her off the plane, down the stairs, put her in she said, "Oh, I can sit in the seat." Put her in the seat. And I drove off the airport, and just as soon as I got off the airport, she says, "Could you drop me off in a cab?" I said, "What's that?" She said, "My husband was waiting on the other side of the gate with some kind of a legal order," she said, "and I was trying to avoid him." And I just, you know what? That was good. I let her go.